I think when we started, I would have been quite stoic and afraid to show emotion. And things just get me now, which I think it's the kids. I think it's the family, and like with Mia's story, the kids involved, like pulls on strings. But also because we've been doing this journey together, me and Shay, best friends who started this thing in my garage, and now we're on this sort of epic wave and we're not really sure where it's going. There are moments where we reflect on, difficult times for us, which get me as well. And there'll be time like...
What do you mean? Have you got an example?
Guy and Espina came on our show, and really weird dynamic because our show is Between Two Beers and it's sponsored by Export Gold. Guy was on to promote his book about how much better his life has been.
It's called The Drinking Game.
Since he stopped giving up alcohol. And Seamus has been off the booze for about 2 years now. And towards the second half of the episode, Shay started sort of talking about his experience with booze. And Shay, I don't want to speak on your behalf.
Go for it, man.
But
is it the cheeseburger story again?
Shay is in probably having the best year of his life. Like, he is smashing it on all fronts. And I remember we might have started the pod. It might have been early days. He was not in a great place. Like, struggling.
Sorry, man. Go for it.
And yeah, as you can see, when I think about how far he's come and how difficult those conversations were, it gets me.
Yeah. I think it's been really good in terms of making sense of the world for me. It's given me a voice where sometimes a lot of maybe what I was thinking or things that were rattling around in my head, they wouldn't come out and they'd bottle them in. And my way of coping was to turn to the bottle, and it was to drink and to suppress those emotions and maybe not deal with them. And you get courage from other people having the courage to share their story, and it gives you a little flicker of, I felt like that, or I've been in that position. And I think with the podcast, you've got to give to get, and I think
it's like a vulnerability exchange, isn't it?
Yeah, but not in a fucking like you drink 7-Up and I drink 8-Up. You know what I mean? Like it's not about like who's had a shitter experience, but it's about I guess showing who you are and showing that you understand. And you have a level of empathy, and it has been like in terms of that situation. Yeah, I was in the darkest depths that I had been.
Why? What was there any sort of like catalyst?
I think probably I was looking around in like comparison is the thief of joy or whatever that saying goes, and I was sort of mid-late 30s, no relationship. I was living at home with my mum, which is totally fine, but
you're Duncan Garner, if you're listening to this, it's all good.
But like life is a shared experience as well. So I'd love my mum dearly, and I love spending time with her. But there is an element of joy that was probably missing. So while I was able to do some cool things and travel around and have exciting experiences, you want to share those with people, right? You want to share that aren't just your family. So there was probably a little bit of sadness and probably a little bit of avoidance in that kind of time of my life. And they were probably all coming home to roost. I was feeling a bit sorry for myself, being, like I said, that age, no house, no kind of assets, not that they'd be all and end all, but in my mind it was where it was. So it was, a little bit of courage, and I'd like to say a little bit of nous or a sense from Stephen that something was up. And then we had a really, challenging conversation at a cafe with another one of our good friends, a good supporter of the podcast, Gav Douglas, around what's going on and have you thought about doing anything silly? And I had at that stage thought about, maybe the world would be a better place if I kind of wasn't around in it. And it's a hard conversation to have with a mate. It's a hard conversation to have on a microphone, and it's a confronting one to throw it out to the world for them to kind of consume, and the shame and fear of judgment and what that means for you as a person. But the overwhelming response to anything that I think either of us have ever thrown out there has been one of aroha and one of love coming back,
for sure.
And understanding and acceptance of those things. So that's a really powerful foundation to kind of launch from. And yeah, I am having a great year. It's going really good.
And do you what? Oh, you just had a little twinkle in your eye, like a relationship thing, you mean? Or,
Yeah.
And all this you think is like largely as a result of the non-drinking.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's definitely like, there's shit times where you've got to sit with the feeling of whatever you're feeling and go, fuck, I really have to unpack why I'm feeling this way or why I'm reacting to this situation. But it's a lot for me. Not saying it's the same for everybody else, but for me, it's a lot of a better way to kind of work through that and be comfortable in your own skin about who you are and what you're about. Because fuck, you are who you are at the end of the day.
Yeah, I heard a podcast that a podcast I really like called Diary of a CEO. You guys are familiar with that one, eh?
Very much so.
And Steve-O from Jackass was on there, and he talked about the disease of alcoholism. And he goes, any disease you have, your goal is generally to get back to the person you were before. Like meaning, say, cancer, for example. You just want to get back to where you were. He said, like the disease of like alcoholism or drug addiction, it's the only disease where when you give it up, your life will be better.
Yeah.
I thought, that is a great way of looking at it. So was it kind of an intervention? Like casually, an intervention? Fuck, Steve, that must have taken a lot of balls on your part.
It was a checkup. It was, you know when things are a bit off and you get a sense that they're more serious than what's been led on. And I felt like it needed a really clear question to get to what the fuck is like. When Shay was in this dark space, he was shielding how bad it was, and it wasn't until I asked, are you considering doing something silly or whatever it was, that it opened this chat up. And far, man, it sent us on a bit of a ride. Like, we were, I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but we were booking shrinks and we were like talking to your brother and like there was this whole thing. And I like to think it was a really cool thing. Like there was a group of us best mates, and we all came together and we're like, shit, we're a bit worried about Shay here. Like, what are we going to do? And that community that came around you, fuck yeah.
That's but that, I mean, it's a big. I feel like it's a big friendship risk, eh? Like he could have taken it the wrong way and stormed out, or then just been aloof with you moving forward with the information that he shares with you.
No,
I suppose you have to be ready for
our friendship was tighter than that. It was never going to go to there. It was always going to be. This just means we have to address what's going on. This just means we actually have to face this front on, and just fucking hug the big guy and let's get him through it. Which is why I'm so emotional. It's just because you don't often reflect on.
Well, we've never reflected on it until now. Like the conversation happened. We were in a cafe. Surface level spoken about it maybe since then. I don't think I've ever spoken to Gavin about it ever since.
No.
So you kind of you brush over it and you kind of move on.
Yeah, I mean, what are your recollections of it?
Not that same level of detail. I don't even. I can't now. When you mention it, like I do remember that someone contacted my brother because weirdly I got a phone call out of the blue, like just asking how I was, which doesn't always. Or hadn't always happened.
How did you reply? I'd probably be like, all good.
Yeah, that's probably my default, or make a gag or something like that. But I maybe didn't realise that it was so obvious or apparent from the outside. It was probably on the tail end of quite a challenging time where I was up in Papua New Guinea for 2 years working on a project which really pushed me to my limit, every which way you could imagine. So I was maybe just in a bit of a blur at that stage. I don't remember really when I came out of it. I don't know. But then like that was even before the drinking stopped. So I think we had that situation and then carried on boozing, for a while, and then the boozing finished 2019.
Yeah. So that was a separate
2020
conversation, right? Like that wasn't.
Oh, I'm getting them confused. Okay, so when did this one happen?
That would have been 2018.
Yeah, maybe
so this is before the podcast even started.
The podcast,
right?
And then the drinking conversation was a separate one.
Yeah.
It had just annoyed me, to be honest, because Shay, for anyone listening to this, like, Shay is the most charismatic man in the room. Like, he comes in, he makes everyone feel comfortable, he's the life of the party. But after a few beers, he would just get sloppy, and he would get, I wouldn't like hanging out with him after maybe like one beer, fine, 2 beers, okay. And after that, I was just like, mate, I actually don't like hanging out with you when you've been drinking, because...
What do you mean sloppy? Like a spit talker?
Pesty, just pesty, and
just...
Like, I'm very clever, like very witty and very clever.
Right,
like
very
very good level of gags, but then like a really seedy undertone to the gags.
Are you sure you're not on the coke?
Yeah,
This sounds like something that someone on the coke would say.
well,
I'm very, very good.
Yeah, it was, there was a little bit of everything, but it was, I could recognise that behaviour, and it was just picking up the pieces the next morning as well, and being like, fuck, it was like a broken record conversation of like, I'm here again. But it was conversations were often in my kind of own head. And I do remember vividly that first instance, that first flare-up where he was having a pop at me, and I didn't like it. And I think I didn't like it because I knew it was...
No one's going to like it, are they?
No, but I think also it ate away because I knew he was right, and it was like, fuck.
I remember saying, like, you're just not... This is like a fucking weird therapy session. It's
great. I appreciate it.
You're not living up to your potential. Like, you've got so much potential. Like, you're starting to fulfill your potential. But back then, you're in some fucking shitty job and you're pissed up. And I was like, man, you've got so much to give. Fucking cut the booze out. Like, let's get this train back on the tracks.
Shit, that's nice. I think that's the greatest gift you can give someone as a friend, eh? Like, have the courage to have that conversation. It'd be much easier just to bite your tongue and not have it.
But I had bit my tongue for a long time, and I think that was the culmination. Like,
his tongue was raw.
I say, man. I don't think booze agrees with me.
Famous, you need to stop drinking.
But it's a weird relationship with booze, because for so long we had also championed it. Like, we used to go to these Labour weekend tournaments where Shay would be doing 16 funnels on the sideline, and we'd all be chanting, Seamus. Like, he was the hero because he could sink so much piss. So it's kind of like...
Yeah, and that gives you this weird gratification kind of cycle as well.
Well, it's a badge of honour. Yeah, it was a thing. And, Shay, he can hold his piss.
Yeah.
Insert name here, he can hold his piss. It was, and probably still is, I guess, a badge of honour. I don't know. I feel like the conversation's changed, but then I'm old as shit now. So if I go out and say I don't want to drink, I don't have anyone calling me a pussy.
Yeah. It's an age thing. Yeah, that was mid-20s, late 20s. Like, you can't be doing that when you're...
I still could.
Frank the Tank.
Just not the same doing a Powerade out of a shoe, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat. That's really, really special.
But I think it's definitely, like, I think it's an example as well for friendships that we can have that level of directness and honesty in conversation, and it's probably been honed in this kind of environment where we do have license to ask challenging questions to people, and then to take that out of this environment into kind of everyday life is a skill as well.
Yeah, I'd agree. I've been doing it a lot shorter time than what you guys have. But one thing I've realised is that everyone's got shit going on.
Yeah,
absolutely everyone. And when you realise that, it's actually quite comforting. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not special. I'm not alone. It's just everyone's got shit going on, even people that you wouldn't even expect.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
which I think that's cool.
It's a broken record as well. But like if by listening or comparing yourself, if there is one person out there, it's a fucking cliche. It winds me up. But if there is one person out there that takes some solace and can avoid the feelings that you felt yourself in that moment, then that's fucking worth it.
Yeah,
that's worth the embarrassment or kind of the discomfort of being in that space or having that conversation or facing up to that reality. Really is.
Yeah. And how's your mental health now? You good?
Yeah, I'm really good.
Yeah,
I am really good. It's I really enjoy the ability to do what we do, and why I find it quite hard to nail down like a favorite episode is because when I listen back to everything that we do, like from Welcome to Between Two Beers to the outros that I tend to throw together. That's not a dig at you.
Yeah, I don't.
But like they're just packed with little nuggets of wisdom, and they're amazing gifts that we've been privy to that they do all blend into one, but I always find there's some little piece that I can pull from whoever we've spoken to that I can adapt and relate to whatever I'm going through or feeling or make sense of at that moment. It's fucking awesome. So yeah, really good headspace.
Yeah.
Right here, right now.